Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? We're reporting, of course, live here from Florida from the Mensa conference. Yesterday, Heidi went to heard four different speakers speaking on variety of things. Unbelievable information, pages of notes. I'm going to be bringing those to you, those subjects, in tomorrow's broadcast, so you don't want to miss it. Now, I went and in the afternoon, I actually sat in on two different presentations. One, a man who works for the federal government. He works for the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. He also has reported to President Obama on national security issues as relates to the World Health Organization, bioterrorism, and just the potential of spreading of dangerous pathogens and different diseases. And I sat in on that speech and took a ton of notes. I'm going to bring it to you. Also, I sat in, Heidi and I together last night, sat in on an unbelievable presentation by a CIA interrogator of the enhanced interrogation program. He interrogated the top 16 radical Islamist leaders that was in our possession at Guantanamo Bay. He actually interrogated Khalid Sheikh Mohammed for 21 days. And he brought forth what he learned, what information he gleaned from all of these in the enhanced interrogation process. It was a spirited place. The room was packed. Oh, and by the way, I walked up to him afterwards. He seemed to recognize me. I walked up afterwards and asked him if he'd be willing to come on my show. I have a radio show and a television show, and asked him would he like to come on my show. He immediately said yes, and said on the board he had if you wanted to schedule him for presentations, but he handed me his personal card and personal cell phone number. So I'll be bringing him on this show. We spoke for a few minutes, shook hands, and said, yes, I would love to come on your show. So it will be an unbelievable interview when I bring him on. Can't even tell you. He said, without question, enhanced interrogation works. The information they got from these people would have never been given to them had there not been an enhanced interrogating going on. And he said, we verified the information we got from them, and it was true. Once you break them, then he said we got a lot of information from them and didn't have to do the enhanced interrogation anymore. Once they were broken, once the main areas, main information, main names were released, then they freely spoke about why they believe. Why do radical Islamists believe the way they believe? And this man is a clinical psychologist, Dr. James Mitchell. Not only is he a clinical psychologist with a PhD degree, but he also worked for the CIA and was one of the leading interrogators in the enhanced interrogation program. He worked for President George W. Bush for about 6 years doing this. He said some of the interrogation was done off-site in black sites. Some of them were done in Guantanamo. Some of them were done in different locations. But he was fired the day after President Obama was sworn in his office. The president was sworn in on the 20th of January. He was fired, as well as others in that program, the very next day on January 21st. He was fired. In other words, Obama eliminated the program. It's a fascinating presentation. He will be a fascinating guest. I hope to get him next week. And let me just say this. It was a spirited crowd. At one point, two different people attacked him and tried to blame the Jews for 9/11, of which he responded quite frankly. And I won't even say it, how he responded. But the crowd booed these two guys who did this. They were Jew haters. They said derogatory things. There was another news lady in there who's been on Fox News and CNN. I knew who she was, and she stood up and asked him some pointed questions, trying to get him to say that enhanced interrogation did not accomplish anything, and he shot her down and said, oh, yes, it did. And his presentation was powerful. I can't wait to bring him on. You will enjoy it. It will be it's an eye-opening situation of what went on during those days, during those early years. He did say that going into Iraq was a mistake, that it was an absolute mistake. He said, now, Saddam Hussein's boys need to be killed. His two sons were so brutal, they needed to be killed. He said, but we could have killed him without going to war. We could have just used other methods. We would have killed them both. They need to be killed, he said. But we didn't need to go to war. We didn't need to bring all these troops. We did not need to go into Iraq. That was a mistake. So anyway, it's going to be a powerful, powerful interview, and I'll give that to you next week. And you'll hear from his own words just all the details. I took about 2.5 pages of notes, but I really would like to just let him tell you the whole story. I'll be back with more current world events. Heidi's right now in a session as they're bringing out all the new innovative inventions, innovative technologies that are getting ready to be released in the next year, 18 months, and she's down there right now getting that information. There's tons of stuff with a new world order. I could tell you from that, they are very afraid of bird flu. Bird flu is the number one possible pandemic that could hit the world. I'll tell you more about that later. I'll see you guys at 12 noon Eastern. Don't miss today's live broadcast, including President Trump's historic speech in Poland as he's on his way to Germany now for the G20 summit. Wow, are you serious? Are you saved? The world is dangerous, dangerously. We're getting so close to the coming of the Lord, you wouldn't believe it. Are you serious?